That ache in your lower back at the end of a long shift, the stiffness that never quite goes away. For millions of people doing physical work, that's been accepted as just part of the job. But what if it didn't have to be? That's the question behind SuitX. Meet Michael McKinley. He and his co-founders created SuitX to design industrial exoskeletons that make work easier for the people doing it. SuitX develops this tech to reduce physical strain, helping workers stay healthier, safer, and productive throughout their careers. Today, the company continues to push that mission forward, bringing together engineering, manufacturing, and real-world customer feedback to build products that solve problems where they actually happen, on the job site. That's the conversation we're about to have. Michael, welcome to the Tie-In.
Michael McKinley, Keith Billis, and Ryan Resides here live on the Tie-In. Hey, Michael, I don't know if you knew what you were getting yourself into this morning, but impressions so far of this brand new show on the Roofing Authority Network.
Oh, I love it. You guys are doing really cool stuff. It's
awesome.
It's fun to see the energy coming here, and sometimes it's you get lost in your own day to day when you're trying to get things done on a job site. And I've been there personally, and it's fun to have you guys bringing things up and bringing things to the forefront. I was taking notes there while you were doing it. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, listen, at this point, I like to take the tennis racket and tennis ball and just offer it over to my co-host. But I said to Ryan, I don't think I'm going to leave for this part. But Ryan, you set it up. Let's get this conversation started with Michael and SuitX, my brother.
Thank you, Keith. So, Michael, you co-founded SuitX because you wanted to improve people's quality of life through engineering. Take us behind that. What pulled you specifically towards exoskeletons, and what does quality of life actually look like on the ground for people using them?
Well, that's a great question. So, I mean, I'm one of those guys. I've always been making things, and my family on my dad's side was all medical doctors. So you go and visit your grandparents in small town Pennsylvania. Everybody in the town knows those doctors, and you can see the impact of helping people, and see the impact of taking them literally from cradle all the way up to being an adult and through the rest of their life. And a thing that was clear to me was that was not my calling, but my calling was helping people and trying to combine this medical side plus this engineering side. How can we make products that can really change the way people interact with the world? And I'm really glad that you highlighted the ability to make people walk who are paralyzed. That was one of the ways that I got started with this. My research at UC Berkeley was focused on developing one of the first exoskeletons to help paraplegics walk. So I wish I'd given you one of those clips. It's really cool to see how far we've come. And we went the whole way from literally blank sheet of paper, empty idea. We get the funding, we get the grants, build this thing up from scratch. And kind of our first entree into the world was helping an individual who was paralyzed as a student walk and get their diploma at graduation in front of 20,000 people. It was unbelievable.
I gotta jump in. I gotta jump in here, Ryan. So I need to. So you talk about man, I gotta try to find my words here. So you helped a human walk for the first time. Period.
We've done that many times. I've worked with probably over 200 individuals who are paralyzed, could not walk, as we took our device through clinical trials to get FDA clearance. And the thing that was incredible to me is that literally people would fly. I have a guy that flew from a tiny island in Greece, never calling me, just knocked on my door and said, "Can I come try your device?" Like that to me we were doing something. It blows my mind that was possible.
I've got goosebumps over here,
yes.
guys.
Every single time we'd get someone to stand up, I would be in tears. I'm a pretty stable guy with my emotions. I don't really cry that well, but man, it's crazy. It's amazing.
What a beautiful mission, Michael. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. So when you say like I'm inspired by this, that's kind of the feeling that we came from, right? And our whole team was building these devices, and we got that device up. We got it FDA cleared, and the longer story of that is there are many things that happened with COVID. The situation with insurance wasn't quite in place. it's a different landscape now to try to bring these medical devices to the consumer. So there's new insurance codes that are available. And so the company had to pivot, and we took those technologies that we developed for medical applications and we applied them to industrial, search and rescue, military, and even the clip that you showed for the hiking application. We had devices similar to that we've been working on to help individuals get additional stamina. And so the punchline here is today we're talking about the thing that is most real to me at the moment, which is applying that same quality of life boost to industrial applications. And you mentioned like the ache in your back. Well, I'm wearing a device today. I'll give a demo here in a second. That's designed specifically to address that. And but we also had devices to help shoulder support. We see a lot of rotator cuff injury. When you guys are on the roof, you're on top of everybody. But some there are projects that go over your head, so you may not be familiar with those, but because you're always on the top of all of those things. But for example, in car manufacturing, the car goes up overhead. In sheetrocking, you got to keep your arms over your head the whole time when you're doing a ceiling, a lot of electrical stuff like that. So my point is we've got many different devices for different jobs.
Right.
I was hanging a new light in our living room over the weekend, thinking about talking to you, Michael, and really wishing I had one of those exoskeletons that attached to my arms. They were on fire trying to hold that light up and get it wired and everything.
That's
so
right.
Here's something insiders in your world rarely say out loud. There's no such thing as one universal exoskeleton. Every device is a trade-off: support, freedom of movement, weight, cost, comfort. What's the real story there? What do you wish more buyers understood before they go looking for the best one?
Well, that's another good question. So, I mean, the easy analogy I like to make is when you go shopping for a truck, you've got the Ford Ranger, F-150, 250, 350, you add 50s to it, it goes all the way up. If you get the F-650 dually with the dump bed, it's going to be probably the wrong tool for the job if you've got to go someplace that's, you need fuel economy, you need a really small thing to fit somewhere. But if you got to carry an entire pallet of something, good luck putting that in the Ford Ranger. Multiple pallet. You drive up to a job site with everything you need to put on a roof. It's not going to fit in that tiny truck. So that's the analogy I like to make here for some of our devices. We have a full range, and it's really trying to tailor to the job that you're doing. So if you need a lightweight system, we have that. If you need a huge amount of support, we've got that. If you need somewhere in between, we can make that happen. And so again, that applies to different body parts as well. You're not going to wear one thing that supports everything in your body because you're carrying around a lot of dead weight for those jobs that are not requiring the assistance.
It's interesting, Ryan, because when you and I first started talking with this and you said, hey, we're to have SuitX on the show, my mind goes to, and I'm glad you used that analogy, Michael, about the car, because when I hear exoskeleton, I just go to like one thing. You strap it on and you go. But then I'm like, well, no, wait a minute. There's for the arms, for the legs. And I'm going to make an assumption here that early people to this, or people that aren't familiar with exoskeletons, probably are like myself, thinking it just is one unit, it's powered and it does one thing. And you're nodding there going, no, there's a whole suite of products. Ryan, how does Division 7, Jimmy, let's pull this up here. Let's pull this LinkedIn post. Let's just segue to how you guys, Ryan. I think so. So you told me yesterday, you're like, hey, I found this product from SuitX. I called Kiesel up and said, Kiesel, I want to get one of these things to try it out. Share with the community, share with the audience how Division 7 is using the SuitX product and how you guys are using the exoskeleton. Ryan.
Absolutely, Keith. So I want to circle back to something Michael was talking about just a moment ago with the car analogy.
Yeah.
As a person who's a customer of SuitX, I can tell you that they certainly embody what he's saying, not knowing much about their products or that industry in general. They were able to have great in-depth conversations with us about what our workers were doing on a day-to-day basis, down to the physical movements that they were having, where they were working, and be able to recommend the right product for us. So in this particular case, I believe it's called the IX Back Air that we elected to get from SuitX. and deploy it on the roofs with a pilot program. So this particular model doesn't have any electronics in it, which is pretty cool for somebody who's going to be outside all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure once they get models with electronics, they're probably going to have dust and waterproofing on them, so you won't have to worry about that for outside work. But to start out, we wanted something that was very simple to put on, lightweight, and our workers wouldn't feel like it was restricting them at all. So in this particular post, you see one of our re-roofing workers trying out the exoskeleton, and the reviews were phenomenal. This is a situation where we're dealing with the culture of blue collar workers out there. And if something isn't adopted by, the cool kids in the schoolyard, if you will, you could get ridiculed by this. So there's certainly a little bit of a challenge for adoption, but when we had the right people put it on and they felt the benefits on their back and the energy that they would have at the end of the day to have better interactions at home with their family, the results were phenomenal.
Yeah, we're talking Michael McKinley, Keith Bills, Ryan Mersides on the tie-in live. We're getting into the future. Roofing isn't replacing the crew, it's keeping them. Keith and Ryan are going to jump into that conversation a little bit deeper because Ryan talked about the culture of that. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. But Michael, back over to you. We titled this episode, What a Roofer's Back Has Been Carrying That Has Never Made the Spec, because nobody puts wear and tear on a job estimate. So from what you've seen, Michael, what does that toll actually look like over a full career on a roof? And where does an exoskeleton start to change the math for a woman, a man who's strapping these on? Michael.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's a challenge. What we come into here is it's an ergonomic challenge. No matter what kind of job you're doing, if you're sitting at a desk, you get an ergonomic challenge. If you're working on a roof, you got ergonomic challenges. So the first thing that we're trying to do is re-engineer, look at the task at hand, see what we can do to change the loads on the body. So that means looking at your posture, looking at what you need to carry, or can we break something down and so we get it closer to your body so the strains in your lower back are not quite as high? Can we leverage some other technology to change how we're using our body in the space? And at some point, you can no longer have any other changes to the environment. The roof is always going to be at the top of the building, and it's always going to have heavy stuff that you're putting on the building, and it needs a lot of motion, a lot of manipulation of different components to install it. And so that's where we come in. We're that last change that we can make to your ergonomics to help reduce the strain in your lower back, specifically L5, S1 area. And over time, we like to make the analogy that a worker, if you added up all of the buckets of tar that you're carrying, pick your thing, it ends up being more than a semi-trailer over the day. It's astounding how much load, and that's cumulative compressive stress in your lower back. So that's strain on your muscles. Over time, your muscles fatigue. And when your muscles fatigue, now we've got challenges with trying to maintain correct positioning of your joints, maintain correct positioning of your discs in your back. And so our technology comes in here to help you get additional stamina over time. So everybody says, oh, well, let's make me Iron Man. Can I jump up to the roof now, right? That's not really what we're trying to do. We're trying to allow you to do the job that you're doing for the whole day, go home without feeling pain at the end of the day, and be able to maintain the quality that you're doing. And that's not only quality of physical output, but quality of posture through the whole day. There's less slouch because you're able to share that with the device that you're wearing.
Ryan.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Michael. And I can tell you just from putting on the device myself, talking to gentlemen on the roofs who were on their hands and knees for long periods of time, working with heat welders, bending over, Lord knows how many times, thousands of times a day to run screws to hold down the insulation and the membranes that we're installing. This is huge. I can't imagine not working with one of these, to be honest with you, in the long run. So One of the harder lessons you learned is that a better product doesn't automatically win. Adoption comes down to training and buy-in, not just the tech itself. Roofers are a proud crew, and nobody wants to be the one guy trying something new and take the heat for it on site, as I referred to earlier. What have you seen work to get a crew past that? And why does exoskeleton usually end up becoming somebody's best friend once they do, from your perspective, Michael?
Hey, so we'll address it straightforward. So you got two pieces there. One is the design of the product, and one is the adoption of the technology. And coming at it, like, I'd like to think that I can design a perfect product that everybody can understand right off the bat. And our team, likes to think that we can give this thing to the world, and it's obvious once you try it on. It's clear. But sometimes there's a lot of other components to that. Cultural things, could just be practicality things. And so it was very important for us to take those early prototypes and physically go out to the job site, talk to those people, really understand what it is that's the hard part of their job, what could really make an impact, what things are prohibitive. In our case, you talked about batteries. We intentionally designed these systems so that they didn't need batteries. We didn't need to have to figure out where the additional charger was in the middle of the day. Oh man, my suit ran out of batteries. You guys work in a really tough environment. You don't get to choose how hot it is in a given day, how much rain, how much hail, like what the wind situation is like. These things need to be able to withstand not only the elements, but the test of time every single day. So an example of that is, we've literally had these in mining operations. We've had them on wind turbine repair. So you've got salt spray, you've got extreme temperature, you've got welding applications, right? And so the idea is that we take these really austere environments, we combine those requirements, and I ultimately have a product that's very versatile. And that takes you to the next part, which is, okay, well, now that we don't have any excuses anymore, there's not a single thing from the specification list that we can't, that makes it prohibitive. We can work with a harness if we need to. We can machine wash. Okay, keep adding those things. We got all the things on the list, right? Now it comes down to the cultural elements, and it comes down to the training elements. And from my experience, that requires the bottom up and the top down approach to make this work. So I need to be able to communicate man to man with the people wearing it, and I got to be able to communicate with the people that are buying it and the people that are signing off and saying that this makes sense, that this new tool fits our industry, fits our job well. And if you try to force it from one side to the other, it just doesn't work. You need everyone to understand. And oftentimes, just to be frank, it means that you need to have people on site that have experienced some of these injuries and have experienced the toll. Sometimes, you get lucky, you get a team that they're all really healthy, and they haven't had to go through that. More often than not, the guys that have been around for a long time, that are often at this point the foremen are running the ship, they've gone through this, or they've seen their buddies suffer with it, and so they have that understanding, empathy, and then they can feel it and they say, oh wow, actually my back feels better. And the last part is sometimes no one will notice on site that day, but you hear the next day and they come back, you're like, for the first time I was able to go play ball with my kids. I didn't have to sit on the couch. And I get these emails, and to me, those emails are just gold. That's what gets me up in the morning, gets me fired up to continue developing these things. Is like hearing the feedback from these people. So
every roof you look up at started down here. Racks, pallets, paperwork, long before the crew ever gets to it.
The tie-in doesn't just cover the crew, it covers the trade. Warehouse to weld, spec to seam. Subscribe.
Hey, hanging out with Keith, Michael, and Ryan live on the tie-in. We're talking exoskeletons. And Ryan, before I throw this question back to you, I got to ask Michael something that he said, and there's a theme happening here. And the theme to me is and frankly, it's a human story. It's a personal thing. The reward you and your team must feel daily by changing people's lives. And I like literally, so helping somebody who's never walked before, like you said, having a man come home saying, wow, I can play with my kids. Like, it's almost like the exoskeleton is like the excuse to change somebody's life. It's like, that's the byproduct. Like, that's really why you get out of bed, isn't it, Michael? Like, I'm seeing you nodding, like the fulfillment you must feel as a human being. Seriously, point blank, period.
It's pretty amazing. It's really cool. And that's, again, that you can see that's the theme in my life. I like trying to design things that really change how people interact with the world. So, it's elevating quality of life. That's the simplest way to say that. And that can be performance, that can be reduction in pain, that can be, we say performance when you carry things longer, we can do the same task better for longer. But that's the underlying theme. How do we help people? We're not about trying to, like replace a job. We're not trying to make you work harder. We're trying to help you. That's a simple thing.
Yeah. Ryan, before I throw it to you, some comments from the community here. We got the tie-in jumping in saying, hey, making it like wearing sunglasses when it's bright outside, the benefit outweighs the desire to skip the step of putting it on. And then, of course, we got Mike is making stuff as well, chiming in saying, sad but true, West Texas isn't politically correct sometimes. The new hire, if you have a question about how to do something, Ryan, we're going to talk about this in a few moments. Somebody looks at you funny because you're trying something new. But Ryan, we got a few more questions for Michael as we're wrapping up here on segment 7 live on the tie-in. Ryan, throwing over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Keith. So, Michael, every product you build starts with one specific person in mind, and you make sure that they're the first to try it. What has that person or your customers more broadly taught you that changed how you think about what SuitX is really building?
Oh, absolutely. So, we come back full circle here. We're talking about helping paralyzed individuals stand up and walk. That device we called the Austin suit because we were working with a gentleman named Austin Whitney. He was a great guy. He's still one of my good friends. And, so we're working with one guy. I really try to emphasize with our team, we're designing these systems. Today, it's a back support system. We're designing it for one person. If it doesn't work for one person, how on earth is it going to work for everybody? If designed for all, it fits none. One size fits none, right? And so then if we can establish the utility of this thing for one job, we say, wow, that thing is amazing. I'm getting that. I go home and my back doesn't hurt. I'm getting these reactions that I can play with my kids. I'm getting that I could do the weld. I can do this complicated task for longer, with better quality. Okay, now let's expand it to 2 people, right? Let's look at 2 different industries now. Let's look at, and we can expand this model and make sure that it's exactly what you need for every single task that we're doing. We're not leaving something behind. We're not leaving performance on the table. We're not leaving an opportunity to really help somebody. So that's kind of the idea, this design for one concept. And that's been applied to all of our products. Really, when we go in the field, I have this really distinct memory of specific jobs that are unbelievably challenging. And there's no way you're gonna, a good example would be one of our first projects was working with shipbuilders. And this guy has to weld the seam on the bottom of the ship, and another guy's gonna come behind him with an X-ray inspection. And this ship is the length of the Panama Canal. It takes him 8 hours to do the job. How on earth are you supposed to do this? There's no tools available for that, right? So that's an example. That gentleman was in Japan. We worked with him and we produced this device, bring it back. Okay, great. We've got one stakeholder, right? We can take the next step. And we've had similar things in construction, similar things for, again, like looking at the lower back strain, looking at people doing flooring. This system was initially designed to help all of these bending applications. So you guys are right in the sweet spot for that. Like anytime we're, as you said, either working on your knees or you got to bend over a lot of times, we have the same challenge. We got individual lower back strain that we're trying to address. So that's kind of the idea there. The inspiration comes from the field for all these systems.
Yeah, Ryan.
You just have an unlimited amount of cool stories as we're talking to you, Michael, here. I'm loving this conversation.
We're just getting started here. Yeah.
My imagination when you were talking about a ship that big and thinking about myself standing there for just a few minutes trying to hang a light over the weekend and welding a ship that long. I feel so small, but I'm just so inspired. So inspired.
Well,
so
I do the same thing when I think about what you guys are doing, and because a roof is built one piece at a time, like everything else, and you've got a team that's got to work together, and the tools, the materials, the training, everything has to come together perfect on that period of time to get a high quality product that's going to sit up there and stand the test of time for 20 plus years, right? So we gotta have this policy of quality all the way through. And so that's where we're really inspired to, what can we do to really help out that whole team and get this show just dialed. We want to have like this amazing product. In this case, you guys, it's a roof. It's an amazing roof product that you're putting out there. So it's top to bottom.
Yeah, we got a question from the community, Ryan and Michael. The question from Mike is, has there been anything mentioned by OSHA? Curious about their perspective, if they have one, support, where do you go with that, Michael? Michael McKinley from SuitX.
Well, I mean, so there's a couple ways to look at that. So one is we really try to avoid, like for instance, OSHA would require a safety harness if you're working in a task that's higher than a certain level and doesn't have railings, right? So that's an example of something where we have a requirement, we need to meet it, and there's a potential fine if we don't meet it. We really are not interested in having OSHA adopt these technologies in that way, where it would be a requirement. And we've been trying to educate them. We work with the National Institute of Standards, NIST, as an example, to try to develop these ways of testing these devices so it's easy to understand, to show how they work. But the point is, we're not trying to make them in the same way where it's safety glasses or a hard hat where there's a specific legal requirement. That's really not the goal. The goal is, from what we've seen, if it's a voluntary adoption, it's much more powerful. You're going to get the team working together. And how does OSHA know how to use this properly, in your site? That doesn't make sense. So that's it. Hopefully that answers your question about it. But
it sounds like to me, Ryan, that's a question that deserves probably much more unpacking over much more conversations and much more time, Michael McKinley.
Anytime OSHA comes up, it's a big conversation. There's
interesting. Yeah.
We could go on for hours as it applies to our industry and probably many more. So talking about bringing stuff together, the roofing industry, exoskeletons, we haven't figured out how to make wearing an exoskeleton as routine as putting on a hard hat, for example. Where's the effort right now? And if a roofer's watching this video, Michael, who's never touched one before, what do you want them walking away believing?
That's a good question. So, I mean, the main thing I want them to believe is that it's not Iron Man. We can't fly yet. We can't, as we said, jump from the floor to the ceiling, yet. But it is a tool for a specific job, the same way you would pick a hammer for a specific job and not a pair of pliers. We can help you understand what the best tool would be for your application. And I can very easily imagine how there would be some roofs, some projects where this would be perfect, and some projects where I would leave this in the truck. And I think that's just being humble. I am not interested in pushing this thing to everything, right? It's use the right tool for the right job. I'm sure we could talk to you guys. I'm sure about specific tasks where you've literally tried it. And there's probably certain jobs where it's a slam dunk, and certain jobs you're like, it's a little too complicated today. The way we have to access it is a little challenging. Let's not use it for this task.
Exactly.
Speaking of tasks, Ryan, can we call an audible with our guest, Michael McKinley, today and ask him to show us a few things with his awesome SuitX exoskeleton? Michael, do you think you can show us a few things right now?
Please do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to try to move our camera here so this is a little better. Hopefully our internet stays connected.
And Michael,
so
do we need to bring Delaney in? I know she's in the green room there. Is she going to be a wonderful observer for us? Is she going to join our conversation today? Or
totally up to you. I think so Delaney so I'm one of the co-founders. Delaney is one of our excellent ergonomic training people. So she'll go out in the field, help set these things up. We've got a great team. So Delaney's really been one of our rock stars here, all over the country, helping us set these up in the field.
Yeah.
The one challenge I would have bringing Delaney in is that I'm seeing that we have a limited screen space.
Yes.
So maybe if you bring Delaney in as audio, but not visual, that's probably the best way to do it. But so I'll just quickly try to do this demo, and I'll do my best to talk about what I'm doing so that your podcast listeners can understand this at the same time.
There she is.
So I'm wearing Delaney, welcome to the show here.
Hi, guys.
I'm wearing our back support exoskeleton. We call this back X. I'll just quickly take it off here so you can see what's going on. Hopefully my camera is able to show that. And what's cool about the system is it's a combination of a soft waist belt and our harder exoskeleton component. So the waist belt you could wear all day. It's the same idea. You'd be able to connect tools to it if you had specific things you want to keep on your belt. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll have this set up to a specific individual and then they keep it with them. And then when you come on task, we've got these mechanical quick connects. It's kind of hard to see in this video, but you snap it in place. And then we've got a strap that goes around your chest and then 2 straps that go around your legs. You can see how fast that is here. I'm talking as I do it. But once you know what you're doing, it's about 10 seconds to put it on. And so now the device is on. I'm able to walk around freely. It doesn't affect my walking. I can climb up and down a ladder, like I climb up and down stairs, do whatever you need. You're still very agile. And then to use it, I have got a button on the side that turns on our mechanism. So this is a mechanical system. There's no batteries, no motors. It's just literally, it's a clever mechanical, if I say so myself, a mechanism here that turns it on. And when I bend over, I'm getting energy stored in a spring. So it feels like I'm, imagine you're in the outfield playing baseball, you get your hands and your knees to reduce the strain on your lower back. It's a very similar sensation. So it's pushing on my thighs and pushing on my chest. I don't know if you can see that. And as I bend over, I'm storing energy on the way down and I get it back on the way back up. So the system automatically detects if I'm walking around, it gets out of my way. And as soon as I bend, it helps you do that motion. So we've got 2 different modes. This is kind of the automatic mode. And then I can turn it off, change it to the static mode, turn it back on. And now I get assistance right at the top of the bend. So now it's always on. And this is useful for something where maybe one example would be like if you're working on the floor and you constantly are in a bending position, I'm getting that support on my lower back. It feels like I've got an extra hand that I'm pushing on the floor here. And it's very dynamic and I'm getting that consistent support. Yeah, it's really cool. So I can move through it. I don't feel like I'm stuck. I can move around easily. I can try to give you a different perspective here. I forget about it almost immediately.
I was just going to say, do you feel like you're wearing it? Do you feel like you're wearing it?
I don't really, obviously I'm wearing something. There's an additional component here.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel it because like the weight is taken by this harness very well.
Yeah.
And then this component only weighs a few pounds. The harness doesn't, the harness is like ounces. So it stays on my way. It's pretty breathable. We've really focused on trying to get it to be as cool as possible. The padding can be easily removed and washed if we want to. Everything's interchangeable. Everything that touches the human, you want to be able to wash because obviously it gets sweaty or dirty over time. This is the fact of doing work. And then the last piece is, so this one system has quick adjust, so I can change the dimensions of everything. So this frame adjusts in width, in depth, in length, so that we can hit, we say 5 to 95% of our population. So, and really that was one of the key things that we were trying to develop was we want this system to be only one on the job site. You know, I don't want a small, medium, large. It's a real pain if you're trying to go find, I got bills. If you've seen bills, it's the small one. You know, I don't know where it is, right? I just want to have this system that I can adapt easily to everybody. And it's like 10 seconds here once I know my size.
Yeah. That's genius design there, Michael. I can tell you from our use of it that what you're saying is completely legitimate. I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. We shrunk this thing down, put it on somebody who's 5'8" and a bit wider than me, tall and skinny, short and stubby, anywhere in between. Your product is amazing for adjusting. Delaney, I'm curious from your perspective as an ergonomic specialist, talking to people in our industry here, what can this do for them in the long run over the course of a career that may last 20 to 40 years in a blue collar trade, bending over, using all these different body parts on a daily basis?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, such a strenuous job that these people are doing. I mean, I can't imagine doing it. Obviously, I'm not a roofer, but, I can't imagine going home at the end of the day after working, such a long shift and just the strain that's putting on your body. And so I think just a true testament of how well these work is we work with people of all ages in, across a bunch of different industries, but we'll see people, usually the older people who are like, oh my gosh, I wish I had this 30 years ago, because now they're facing the consequences of not using something like this. And now they have, they suffer with long-term, back or shoulder problems, when they weren't maybe as aware of the injuries they could be subjected to by doing these jobs. So that's why, especially when we see younger people, they're like, oh, I'm young, I'm strong, I don't need to use this. But then, we have someone older come in who's like, no, I wish I had this, when I was your age.
Yeah, I totally feel that, being a person who's kind of in the middle of the pack and in the age group. I came from the young and dumb end of things, but have a father who was in the Navy and did a second career in a blue collar trade, and his knees and his back are toast. I would have loved to be able to hop in a time machine and give him one of these years and years ago. I know he'd be a lot better off for it. And certainly everyone will who comes into contact with your products. So thank you. Thank you for the inspiration.
Yeah, as we wrap up with Michael and Delaney from SuitX, we're talking exoskeletons today. I got an interesting question for you. I'm going to throw it to Michael first, and maybe Delaney can take it off as well. So Michael, a disciplined founder. I'm a founder as well. You have a vision, you have a purpose, and you go. But then somewhere along the way, there's things that you learn. You're like, oh, I didn't think we were going to learn that. Share with us something that was kind of one of those revelatory. And Delaney, I'm going to come to you next as the ergonomic specialist. What's one of those revelations, Michael, that was like, oh, we did not expect that, whether it was the roofing industry or any industry, but let's kind of let me get the business side of this. What was the big revelation, Michael?
Oh man, it's almost every day. I haven't had mine yet today, but I had one yesterday. I know. But I think just from a product perspective, I like to say that we design these things to be as dumb as a hammer. And the idea is that it doesn't require batteries. It doesn't require software. It doesn't require Bluetooth. It's as dumb. A hammer doesn't, you don't need to log into a hammer. A hammer just works, right? So that was a revelation. Like we everything, I'm coming from mechanical engineering. Everyone likes to add, I have so much robotics background. I have so much mechatronics. We put these fancy words into it, right? And so you have to humble yourself and say, simpler is better, right? Dumb as a hammer is what we want. I don't want powered degrees of freedom, right? We need this thing. So the revelation was simpler is what works, right? And simpler what gets adopted. And so now, many years later, we have these other systems that do have batteries, and they're solving specific problems that we can't solve with other systems. But from the majority of applications, the simple approach is the one that really works.
Delaney.
Yeah, no, good answer, Michael. I think for me was I didn't think, starting this job when I was interviewed, they asked me, how easy do you think it is to sell an exoskeleton? I was like, so easy to sell it. It turns out a lot of people are really skeptical about this technology.
Oh.
It's a new thing, and I think in recent years, exoskeletons, they've been on the rise, but still, fairly new technology. So, a lot of people are skeptical and not really open to it, but, I think it's so great to see, we call it kind of their exo moment, is then when people try on the exoskeleton and they're like, oh my gosh, this actually does work. So it's really incredible to see people actually getting to try the technology and then just seeing how much it can benefit them.
So I have to jump in for a quick second here and just say that I might be offended by Michael's comment about dumb as a hammer. A little personal story, Ryan. I got for a Christmas gift one year as a young man, I got a hammer. And I'm a tech guy. I'm a computer guy. I'm a nerd guy. Michael, I got a hammer and I looked at my parents and I'm like, what do I do with this? Yeah, true story. Yeah, I was like, what do I do with these things? And I went back.
I apologize.
And I went back to typing on my computer, Michael. So maybe I am dumb as a hammer. So, but one thing that strikes me, what you guys are doing, love him or hate him, but Elon talks first principles approach. I must think, Michael, often the things you guys talk about is first principles, because if you're making something dumb as a hammer, you got to strip everything back to make it as simple as possible. And often that means unlearning everything we've learned. Michael.
You got it. Yeah. Well, we were talking first principles first. So it's been a long journey here, right? And the simplest way, people say, what does first principles mean? Well, that means we come back to a blank sheet of paper. We throw out everything, right? And we say, what are the most important requirements? And oftentimes that comes down to physics. The thing that you guys understand more than anybody is that gravity always wins. And, you're fighting gravity on the way up to get everything up to the roof, and your body's fighting gravity the whole way. So that's kind of our one defining criteria. And if it doesn't stand up to that requirement, well, we're not really helping you. And then we start we layer on intelligent constraints after that. So we talk about, as we were saying, the waterproof element and use the last in the elements. But a core component of first principles thinking is that we're not just adding requirements just for fun. We're not adding bells and whistles just because they're interesting, right? We got to strip those things out and get rid of as much as possible, because ultimately that's what you need. You're not getting these, the bell and whistle may be adding things that end up restricting you from ultimately doing the thing that you want to do in the best way. So it's really, you hit the nail on the head. That's what we're trying to do every day. It's often a simple approach is the only approach.
Hey, Ryan, do we got to wrap up with these guys already?
I feel like we've only been talking for 5 minutes. I'm looking at the time here, Keith. I want to keep going. My mind is going crazy with questions, but unfortunately, we do need to wrap it up for today. Maybe there's a part 2 at some point in the future.
At least a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. I feel like we just scratched the surface with Delaney and Michael from SuitX, and it's funny because we got the comments here. We got some of the folks from my morning show. We got Charlie coming in saying, "I need one just for everyday life," and it's hard not to watch what you guys are doing. And we see some of the exoskeletons in market. I think we're going to see more, and with robotics making more and more impact in the world, it's inevitable, isn't it, Michael and Delaney, that these are going to become part of day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we love to help people understand that, have more people have an exo moment, as Delaney said.
Yeah.
We love to educate anybody who's interested. So feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at SuitX.com. That's SUITX. And we're happy to come out and do demonstrations to help you test these things on site. It would be really cool if you guys want to do a follow-up on site with one of your, I don't know if you do in-field, like Mr. Rogers, we're going to go look at the, for your podcast here, we'll go and do some sort of video thing for you guys. But yeah, it's a full spectrum that we offer now. It's really, really fun over the last, I don't know, I hate to say it, I've been doing this since 2009. So it's almost 20 years of working on exoskeletons, but yeah, we're, as you mentioned, we're looking at back. We've got 3 different products for the back. We've got 2 different products for your shoulder, and then a whole suite of smaller products to help very specific tasks.
Ryan, I thought he was 29, so 20 years, 29. Anyways, yeah, that's.
You can do the math. I came out of the womb doing this, so it's.
I think
yeah.
Keith, the visual differences are startling. I think we really need to start putting one of these on, because judging how you and I look compared to Michael,
I agree. Yes,
I got really favorable lighting today. That was the important part. Yeah.
And I'm probably the short one in the group, so I'm glad you said that when you strap these devices on, you can do all sizes. Because what are you, Ryan? 6? You said 6'4" or something? Yeah, I'm 4'6", so I'm a little different than you. I'm joking, but I'm not the biggest man around. So I'm glad that you can bring the product to the site, Michael and Delaney. We can just use it for everyone. That makes me very happy. True story. So again, you said how folks can connect with you guys. One last time, plug SuitX, plug the product. Let's wrap it up with Michael and Delaney. Delaney, you go first.
Go ahead, Delaney.
Oh, what was the question?
Give some plugs to what you're doing. Give some plugs to the business.
Yeah. No. SuitX.com, SuitX.com. Like Michael said, we have a whole, large array of products, targeted towards industrial work. So we've got the ones for the overhead, and then 2 for the lower back. Earlier, Ryan, you actually mentioned, the possibility of a powered exoskeleton. Well, we actually did just release a powered version for the back. More information on that. It's the iX Back Bolt-On. It actually has sensors in it, so you can get app-based analytics with it as well.
Let's
go. A lot of super cool stuff.
Let's go. Data freak right here. I'm all in.
Michael, closing word for you, my friend. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for being on the show today, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. I love talking to you guys. It's really cool to see you guys are elevating the whole industry here. It's really fun to see the education of these new topics. But thank you for having us on.